You don't start things and not finish them. You don't quit. There's nothing that comes out of quitting besides knowing that you didn't finish. We finish everything. You start it, finish it. If you're going to do it to try to be the best. Not to be better than other people, but to be the best for you. You grind hard so you can play hard. The work you put in will pay off. It could be a year, it could be 30 years, but you keep grinding. Welcome to Big Reptile Talk. As always, welcome to the podcast. This is Big Reptile Talk. Excited to bring our guests up. But before we start, let's go ahead and say hi to some of the early people coming in. Reptile Hutch, I appreciate you being here. Nana D's Life, much love. I appreciate you being here. Fungus Queen, I love that you're here. Thank you so much for your support. Bosa Balls, man, I see you. Much love to the people that are showing up early. And before we even start the podcast, we got to give a little bit of love to the sponsors. Of course, Ozzy Boys, man, doesn't need an introduction. One of the kings of ball pythons. I mean, this guy is literally like the Louis Vuitton of ball pythons. So if you're on the market for a snake, make sure you hit him up. If I'm correct, I believe he's doing like a $50,000 fundraiser for, I'm not sure the hospital. I hate to say, but we'll just say St. Jude's. He's raising money. He's wanting to get $50,000 to a hospital. Definitely a great guy. So make sure you hit him up if you're in the market for a ball python. And if you keep snakes, venom-proof cages. Keep your snakes in style. Just one of the best cages on the market, man, especially if you keep venomous. If you're going to keep venomous, keep them the safe way. Venom-proof cages. Make sure you go check them out online. Hit them up and tell them Derek's Reptiles sent you. What is going on? Susie said, can't wait to see this. Susie, I appreciate you. Winnie Cloud Shadow, what is going on? Much love to the people that are showing up. Now, without further ado, this man's life is a movie. We're bringing on the owner of All Pro Shipping, Mr. Chad. Man, I want to talk to him and just pick his brain, man. How you doing today, sir?
I am fantastic, man. How are you doing? Trying to find a quiet spot in my house. I got some housework being done, so thanks for bearing with me, but I'm excited to be on with you, man. It should be a lot of fun.
I love it, man. I love it, man. Now I've done my research, man, and this blows my mind. Now you are a ex-NFL player, and a lot of people might not know that. What team did you play for?
All right, I was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I played with the Steelers, the Seahawks, and the New England Patriots. Had a great run in the NFL, 15 seasons.
15 seasons in the NFL. I haven't even known you but maybe 2 minutes and I'm already jealous.
Like I said, I had a really good run.
Oh my God. Now I've done my research. You said that I watched the podcast that you did with the girls over in I think it was In Blue. On that podcast, you said you got the chance to play with Tom Brady, I believe.
I played with a lot of Hall of Fame teammates. Tom Brady would probably be the top for most people to recognize, but I played with Kevin Green and Ramani Dawson. I played with John Randall and Warren Moon. You play 15 years, you're going to come across some great players. And I was lucky enough to call some of those guys, not just teammates, but really good friends.
Right. I love it, man. Now, shout out to Nana D, no problem. Shout out to Moon over Miami. He says, I remember him in the NFL. How does that make you feel? People know you from the NFL.
Part of it usually makes me feel old because the people who say they know me or they remember me, they're usually older football fans. But it's great. It's great. It's nice to know that my passion for football, touch people and they remember what I did. So, that's always a fun part of being a former player is hearing from the fans, hearing those stories about, why they remember me, or maybe they played high school football and they chose to wear that number because of me. All those things are always super flattering.
Right. Even if I was retired, I'm not letting nobody forget that. I was in the NFL and I can still dust you even though I'm retired. You still pretty quick?
You know what? Every year, I retired when I was 37 years old. Every year after I retired, on my birthday, I would do a dunk. I had a basketball court outside. It was a 10-foot standard rim, and I would do a dunk just to kind of prove to myself that I still got it. I stopped at 50. I'll be 52 in a couple of weeks. July 12th is my birthday. I stopped at 50 because I didn't want to, blow an Achilles or something, trying to, prove I can still have it. So I think I still got it. I think I still do have it. I just haven't tested it in the last couple of years. But like they say, young punks jump up to get beat down. So you want to test? You want to test this? I wouldn't recommend it.
I love it, man. I love it, man. Now, I love the fact that you were NFL. I think that is just so amazing, man. So I think I hit you with the next question. Is just give us like an NFL myth where you're just like, yeah, that's just not true.
Ooh, man. That most NFL players retire and they are set for life. The average career is only about 3.5 years. And most of those guys aren't first round picks or even second round picks. They're guys who were, late round picks or brought in as undrafted players. They make league minimum. And so when they leave the league after 3.5 years, they got a little bit of a cushion, but they are certainly not set for life. They have to work like the rest of us work. So I think there's a myth about that. Football contracts, unlike NBA contracts or baseball contracts, those contracts are fully guaranteed. So when you hear about a player in a number of years and an amount of money for basketball or baseball, those dudes are getting every single penny of that money. Not in the NFL, not at all. Your contract is a year-to-year deal. Basically, if we choose to employ you for this year, this is what we will pay you for this year. For next year, they can let you go. So it's always a very competitive situation where you feel as if you have to earn your way onto the team every year and show them that you are worth the money they're paying you. At the peak of my career, I was making 10, 12 times what the average rookie was making. So in my mind, every year, I had to find a way to show up to training camp 10 or 12 times better than that kid they just brought in. I may be old, I may have some miles on these tires, but I'll show you what I got, and I'm going to make myself worth it to you to keep paying me this money.
That makes sense. That makes sense, man. Before we keep going, much love, Brad Clark. He wants to let you know, he said, I bought a pair of yellow anacondas from Chad when he was in Boulder, Colorado.
Wow. Old school. Yeah. So shortly after I got into my NFL career, I started Pro Exotics Reptiles, which I'm sure we'll get to as the show goes along. And yeah, I've got some folks who still either have some of those animals or have descendants of some of those first animals I bought and sold. So very, very cool.
Right. I love it, man. Now, most people don't just immediately know that they're going to be in the reptile hobby. So I want to know, what was that first animal that just really did it for you, that you were just like, you know what, this is what I want to do.
Okay, I will date myself a bit here. A lot of people, who are in the reptile hobby, obviously remember Steve Irwin and all his adventures. Well, you got to go back like 2 generations before Steve Irwin, because before Steve Irwin was Jack Hanna. Before Jack Hanna, there was Marlon Perkins. He had a show called Mutual Omaha's Wild Kingdom. So I used to watch that show every single week. And would be wowed by all the cool things he would do out in nature. And when he got to the reptiles, I was always particularly just, enthralled with that. So, they wrestled with a, 15-foot anaconda. My dad was a mechanic. I would get one of his tape measures and I would measure out 15 foot in the living room and like, oh my gosh, 15 feet, that's so amazing. So this passion for reptiles and fascination has always been a part of my life. I grew up in Southern California. So in my backyard, I could catch alligator lizards and California king snakes and all different versions of garter snakes and frogs and toads. So that was always part of my backyard in nature around me. So once I got into college, I was no longer in my mother's house because my mama, like most moms, said no snakes in the house. I got my first boa constrictor, my first snake. I named her Fear because everyone was afraid of her. And that's what started off, not because the fascination started before that, but that's where the passion kicked in. And it's like, okay, I got one. Now, how do I get two? And then so on and so forth.
Right. I love it, man. I love it. Now, you were doing a lot of breeding with the rhino rat snakes, man. Are you still kind of dabbling in that? Oh, we lost him. That's all right. Just go out. Okay, there you are.
Yep.
Well, I'll wait till you come back in.
I'm right here. Got me?
You were dibbling and dabbling with the I want to say the rhino rat snakes, right?
Yep.
Are you still messing with them?
Well, as luck would have it, I just got my first rhino rat snake eggs in over 20 years. We were one of the pioneers for that species 20 plus years ago. And I believe for quite a period of time, we were the largest breeder on the planet. And we think rhino rat snakes, Pro Exotics, I say we, the folks at Pro Exotics, and myself, speaking for myself now, I think rhino rat snakes are one of the coolest animals out there. The horn on the nose, the green scales, the black and white skin underneath those scales that they kind of show off when they get a little uh, agitated. Super cool animals. Long story short, I found somebody who had some of my original bloodlines from over 20 years ago. He had some babies for sale a couple years back. I raised up 2 pair of those babies and now have one female who's already laid. So I got 9 eggs incubating. And I got another female who just started her pre-lay shed this weekend. So I'm about 10 to 12 days from my second set of rhino rat.
Busy man, he's getting a lot of phone calls.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
I know you're a businessman, you're an entrepreneur. You get a lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
You're a hustler, and I love that. Now, with you having eggs after 20 plus years, I'm gonna have a little fun. I'm gonna give you a hot seat question. We all want to make money. We all want to sell reptiles. Not necessarily saying you, but my question to you is a hot seat question.
Okay.
You just had eggs, right? If you could sell a celebrity a rhino rat snake, who would it be? I know you already met The Rock, but if you could sell anybody in the world, celebrity wise, who are you want to get a snake to?
Ooh, wow. Okay. Well, let's think about this. I want somebody who's going to be responsible with this reptile, who's going to represent responsible reptile ownership. So you know what? You've already mentioned his name in this podcast. I'll go to Tom Brady. I'll go to my former teammate, New England Patriot, Tom Brady, because I know Tom is a upstanding dude. I know if Tom wanted a reptile, he would do it like he does everything at an incredibly high level. So if I were to give or sell Tom that rat snake would have an amazing life, an amazing cage, and Tom would be passionate about it like he is everything else.
I love that. That'd be incredible for the hobby. Could you imagine Tom Brady doing a press conference holding a snake?
Yeah, you thought Justin Bieber, made people want some geckos and snakes a couple years back. Tom Brady would drive all those football folks that same direction.
That would be insane. How many rings? How many rings does he have? What about like 6 or 7 now?
7, I believe. 7.
7 rings. Now I gotta ask, do you have a ring? Oh, that's all right. You got a phone call. That's all right. I know he's a busy man, but I'm glad to have you here. This is insane, man. Now I gotta ask you. Being in the NFL 15 seasons, were you able to get a ring before you got out of there?
Unfortunately, not, man. I chased that thing for 15 years. I was lucky enough to win a championship when I played Pop Warner football. My high school in Southern California, we won back-to-back championships, 32 games in a row. I went to the University of Colorado. I was part of their one and only national championship. So, I would rightfully assume that I got a Super Bowl ring coming my way because I win everywhere I go. This is how it works for me. So yeah, I chased that thing. I was on 2 Super Bowl teams, but unfortunately, both those teams lost. So I was close, very close. Played in the Super Bowl itself, but I have walked away from the NFL ringless. So when I was coaching one of my son's teams, we won a youth football Super Bowl. So that's how I got my Super Bowl ring.
Hey, there it is.
My son's team. Yes,
you got a ring with your son. That's all that matters. And then
yes.
still, other people with rings, so you could steal one of theirs or something.
I got lots of friends with rings who always make it a point to show me their rings and remind me I don't have one.
I love it, man. That is silly, man. Now, I want to give you another hot seat question, man.
All right, let's do it.
we love everybody. We all have our favorites. I love Ozzy Boys. I love Justin Kabelka. I love AEP, Brian Barczyk. We all have our favorites. But my question to you is, we love everybody, but who is Chaz Brown favorite reptile keeper?
Favorite reptile keeper. So not YouTube channel, but favorite
No,
reptile
favorite keeper. They can have a YouTube channel, but they
Ooh,
gotta keep reptiles.
wow. Man, you know what? Gosh, that's a great question. It is a hot seat question. I've known keepers at every level, from people who have just one animal to people, to the biggest in the industry, Kim and Mark Bell. I know them and have been to their place, Reptile Industries. They got 75 acres in Florida. So, I know from the onesie twosie to the, literally tens of thousands of animals under care. Man, that's a very tough one. You know what? I'm going to go with, this will probably be a little bit of a cop out. I'll go with Brian Barczyk, because Brian has found ways to grow and evolve within the hobby. And as we discover new things, he is one of the first people to put those new things out there. And, for a long time, Brian got a lot of heat with his channel, and he was doing breeder setups. He was doing racks and tubs and things like that. But now with his Reptarium, there's tons of space for those animals. They're doing actual animal enrichments. Kevin over at Nerd, I would say he's, you know what? I know I was on my thread talking about Brian, but I'm going to take a quick jump over to Kevin at Nerd, because definitely not as big of a YouTube or social media presence as Brian, but the behavior stuff that Kevin is doing with reptiles, and the understanding that he is developing, and then in turn popularizing. He is getting other folks to see their animals in brand new light, and to see reptile intelligence in a brand new light. And I have to say that I have been inspired by that. After 30 years of keeping reptiles, to see them in a new way has been completely awesome for me. So for those rhino rat snakes that I was talking about earlier, the old breeder style would be to keep them in tubs and then put a male in there for a couple of weeks and take them out. No, I got them in glass aquariums. I keep them in pairs, and I can see the pair interaction. Once that female this year became reproductively ready, no matter how many times I presented that male with food, he would not eat unless the female had ate her full and was actually turning down food. It was fascinating to watch. You wouldn't think of reptiles as cooperative, but both pair of my rhino rat snakes, the exact same behavior happened. Female becomes reproductively ready. The male knows it. He doesn't eat at all. He only lets that female eat. And I actually, once the females became ready to lay their eggs, I removed the males. So they had their first meals in about 4 months. It was very cool and fascinating to watch him recognize that she needed the food, not himself. Awesome behavior. And Kevin at Nerd is really kind of at the spear tip of getting folks to understand that kind of advanced reptile behavior, and essentially reptile psychology in some ways. It's very fascinating.
Right. I agree. Definitely. I definitely agree with you. Now, I'm interested, what is your personal, I know you're very busy, you got a lot of businesses, but what does your personal collection look like?
Okay. So I've got an office at my building where I operate my businesses out of that is just animals. So number one, I've got Fernando. Fernando is a very famous animal in the hobby. Bob Applegate, a longtime reptile keeper, but really a breeding pioneer of so many colubrid snakes. But this animal was in Bob's care for over 35, 40 years. So Fernando is a 55-year-old plus beaded lizard. He's the largest and oldest beaded lizard on record. Every day that he lives, he sets a new longevity record. So I've got the awesome responsibility of caring for Fernando, and that has been awesome. I enjoy the heck out of that. I have the 2 pair of rhino rat snakes. I've got 2 pair of green tree pythons. I was on a trip to Indonesia 20 years ago, and I've always, enjoyed and fascinated by green tree pythons, so I thought I'd do those again. And I've got a bunch of Leachianus geckos that I'm raising up. Most of them I got directly from Philippe de Vaugelet, which is kind of cool. another pioneer guy in the hobby. And then the most underestimated part of my collection would be I've got 2 pair of Halmahera scrub pythons. And on my trip to Indonesia, that was a trip with Cameron Tepedlin of Bushmaster Reptiles and Dave Barker of Dave and Tracy Barker. And we helped discover, and I always kind of put discover in quotes, that species of python on that trip. Obviously, the people on the island of Halmahera knew that they were there, but they had never been described by Western science before. So we brought a whole new species of python back. And I was raising up a bunch of those when I unfortunately had my fire that ended Pro Exotics Reptiles. So about 2 years ago, I acquired some more animals, and I hope to be one of the first outside of a North American zoo to reproduce them in captivity. So a lot of fun working with some animals that I used to work with in the past, and really kind of picking up where I left off 20 plus years ago.
Right. I love that. Now I want to rewind that, because new people that's coming into the hobby, they might not understand how big of a flex that is, what you just said. Now I want to rewind that. We got to rewind that. We going back to Indonesia. You said you were on a trip with Dave and Tracy Barker. These are pioneers in the hobby.
Yes. Okay. So it was just Dave. Now I know Tracy really well as well. I've been to their facility out in Boerne, Texas. So it was just Dave on the trip. Tracy was not on the trip. Cameron Tepedlin of Bushmaster Reptiles, who has imported some of the most amazing reptiles in reptile keeping history. Albino bloods originate from Cameron Tepedlin. He's brought all these other amazing animals into the hobby. But yes, I was on a trip with Dave Barker. So imagine being on a 2-week trip with Dave Barker and being able to pick his reptile brain. Dave was an amazing keeper at various zoos, so he's got a great zoo background. He's got the literature background, written tons of amazing reptile books that are still kind of at the pinnacle of reptile literature. And then he and Tracy, I believe, have probably bred more species of python than anyone else on the planet. So for a reptile dude with a reptile passion to be on that trip, I mean, I was in reptile heaven. Not only did I got maybe the best reptile importer in all of reptile importing history, I got one of the most detailed minds of python and python keeping in Dave Barker. And I'm in car rides with these guys for 6 or 8 hours a day. As awesome of a reptile experience as you could ever imagine.
The people that's watching, I love y'all for showing up, and I need y'all to understand how much of a flex this is. Understand this man's life. NFL player, okay, hanging out with Dave and knows Tracy Barker, trips to Indonesia, knows Tom Brady, met The Rock. Like, this is insane. I'm not be real with you. If I met you in real life, I'm handing you an Uno card. It's gonna be the reverse card. I want to live your life. You live mine. I'm handing you the Uno reverse card, because this is insane. I love it, man. Now, you've been in the game for so many years. I definitely got to ask, what's your dream animal, or do you already have it with a rhino rat snake?
My favorite reptile, every time I'm asked that question, it could vary depending on where I'm leaning at that particular moment. But there is nothing, in my opinion, more regal and majestic than a Boelen's python. They are about as badass as a reptile comes. Imagine a reptile that is, snake that's 10, 12 feet plus. So it's all about as badass as pythons can come, but is so confident in itself that it doesn't have to be threatening or aggressive. It's actually curious about you. It's actually interested in what you are doing. It's actually a little fascinated by what you got going over there. So that's how confident and kind of regal and majestic they are. So I've kept a number of Boelen's pythons over the years. I probably will keep Boelen's pythons again. Right now, I'm a little too unsettled. I'm splitting time between Colorado and Arizona, and I've got lots of business things that take me away. So if I'm going to do Bolin's pythons again, I want to do a large walk-in enclosure. And I want to really be able to spend some time and study this animal's behavior. How is it using the cage? How does it use the cage in the summer versus the winter? Fall versus spring? Hot spots, cold spots, humid spots. Begin to understand all of that. So, yeah, keeping a Komodo dragon would be great. But I've kept water monitors, and I've seen Komodo dragons at zoos. I've actually been to the National Zoo, another flex and name drop, and with Trooper Walsh, and he put a hatchling Komodo dragon that was still in the egg, that hadn't come fully out of the egg, in my hands. So I've seen adults, I've handled babies, I've held an egg that was hatching in my hand. So I've seen all of that. But in my opinion, all the reptiles and all the places that I've traveled, all the keepers I've visited, Bolin's pythons, number one.
That definitely. I love those snakes. I want to say JKR has a Bolin's python right when you walk in his facility.
He does.
But definitely an amazing snake. Shout out to Will's hella heat. He said Chad came into the NFL the same year as my buddy Corey Kroon, but lasted much longer.
Hey, doesn't matter how long you played. You played in the NFL. You earned yourself some stripes.
Right. Now this is not like a dig. This is more so for inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
You are an entrepreneur. You tons of businesses. I want you to talk about that. Like you did this business. Talk about the businesses that you started up, and like Pro Exotics. You did. You got your shipping company. Talk about all your businesses that you've kind of had your hand in.
Well, I wanted to wear some Air Jordans for my 8th grade graduation, and Mom was like, that ain't gonna happen. So from that need to be cool and wear some Air Jordans for my 8th grade graduation, my mom was like, you should find a way to earn some money. So I went in the garage, I got my dad's car wash bucket, rounded up all the car wash supplies, and hit the neighborhood and earned myself some money, put some money in my pocket, and I bought those Air Jordans, and I wore them for 8th grade graduation. And that was the start of this entrepreneurial thing, finding ways to make some money. And for reptiles, it was Cameron Tepedlin from Bushmaster Reptiles, who I met when I was still at the University of Colorado. He was breeding reptiles in his basement and in his garage and selling babies all over the country. And I thought, whoa, you mean I can have this awesome passion, but I can also share this passion with others and make some money along the way. So that kind of put the seed in my mind for Pro Exotics Reptiles. Once I got out of college and got into the NFL and had some money in my pocket, I started Pro Exotics Reptiles. So my former partner, Robin Markland, and I worked Pro Exotics Reptiles. And we built that up over my entire NFL career. And once I retired from the NFL after 15 seasons, I was able to devote full time to Pro Exotics Reptiles. And we became one of the largest reptile breeders on the planet, producing several thousand baby reptiles every year, ball pythons, bloods, boas, Asian rat snakes, leopard geckos, you name it. Over the years, we produced 85 different species and subspecies of reptile with Pro Exotics Reptiles. And then once you've got that going, well, let's try to see if we can conquer some other business thoughts. So the Reptile Report, which Robin now runs, I'm no longer a part of, that was our first other company. There's all these cool things happening in the reptile space. Let's give people an easy way to find that information. Let's give people a way to categorize that information. So that's where the Reptile Report came from. Well, once you have a successful reptile business and you have this large customer base, one of the things your customers are going to frequently ask you is, how do I become like you? How do I start my own reptile business? Well, obviously, you need to have some reptiles. You need to be able to have a feel for them and pair them up and all of that. But one of the final steps is getting those reptiles out to your customers. And one of the more difficult aspects of that is the shipping part of it. How do I do this? How do I pull this off? If you want to ship through Delta at that time after 9/11, you needed to be a known shipper. Well, how do I become a known shipper if I'm not a known shipper? So all those things were very difficult hurdles. And let's face it, dealing with FedEx and becoming certified and all that wasn't very easy either. So we started All Pro Shipping, doing business as Ship Your Reptiles, to help hobbyists with this need for them to, as they grow their companies, they grow their hobby into a business. So it's over 10 years now that All Pro Shipping has been in business. We've grown tremendously since then. And then from that, there's been other offshoots from that company. We sell heat packs with our shipping supplies and our shipping kits. Well, rather than forcing people who need heat packs for whatever reason outside of reptiles to go to some weird reptile site to buy their heat packs, might as well start the heat pack source. So we have the heat pack source. And now I sell heat packs to dozens of different industries that have nothing to do with reptiles. I sell them to aquatics folks. I sell them to people who ship plants in nurseries. Sell them to people who sell specialized paints because paints can't get too cold or frozen during the winter. They won't be able to mix properly. So it's all these other weird, reasons or purposes for heat packs. Well, I've got the same thing for the cold pack source and the insulated box source and so on and so forth. So all these other offshoots of the original business plan is what I'm exploring right now. They're all kind of in the same universe, but they're all slightly different. We have expanded the ship your model as well. So folks who are into aquatics, we don't just have ship your reptiles, we have ship your aquatics because koi need to be shipped. There's people who are doing morph versions of clownfish, the Nemo fish from the movie. There's now dozens and dozens of different clownfish morphs. Those guys need to get their clownfish out. People sell corals, aquatic plants, so I have ship your aquatics for them. Ship your invertebrates for tarantula, scorpion, and bug people. Ship your flora will be launching soon for people who do plants. So taking an existing business line and finding all the possible offshoots of that is kind of my business model.
Mr. Brown, I love it, man. I love it. I need you to understand that, you and Robin remind me of like Dame Dash and Jay-Z. You think all they businesses they had, like Rockefeller, Rockaware, tons of businesses, Rock Nation, Rock Movies, all these businesses, and you just been successful. I love it. I'm going to be honest with you. After this podcast, next time I get an animal, if they ship it through FedEx, I don't want it. If you're not shipping it to me through Mr. Brown, I don't want it.
Well, FedEx is our current shipping provider. We are contracted with FedEx. I haven't started offering their services. So, in the future, you'll be able to ship with FedEx or UPS through Ship Your Reptiles. But yeah, I like to provide as much service as possible for all the different industries as possible. So thank you for I like the comparison. I will roll with that. Those guys had a very successful run, and Robin and I certainly have had a very successful run as well.
I love it, man. Now I want to talk about your shipping company because you said it's through FedEx. I'm new to this, so I was under the understanding that it was like somebody sends you an animal and you ship it out. So it's actually you do it through FedEx.
So FedEx is a shipping provider. We sell all the packaging material. We give all our customers the expertise and know-how. And FedEx does the pickup, the shipping, and the delivery. But we are instrumental in all parts of that. So I service everybody from the military mom who needs to move little Timmy's turtle from Texas to Tennessee. I take care of her. She's probably only going to do one shipment her entire life. I walk her through every step of the process. She is as informed as she could possibly be. And I want little Timmy's turtle to get where it's supposed to be on time. Now, I also have folks like Ozzy, who you mentioned earlier, to me. And on a big weekend, or if Ozzy has a big sale, Ozzy could send out 25 or more packages. I don't want to get too much detail about Ozzy's business, but Ozzy does really well. He sells a lot of pythons, and he ships through me. So Ozzy doesn't need a lot of hand-holding, but Ozzy does want to know what's going on in the FedEx system. Are there any delays? Is there a mechanical function at the hub in Memphis? I'm shipping out to California. It's probably going to go through the Oakland hub. How is travel going in and out of Oakland hub? So all that kind of information becomes critical to giving my customers their shipments and those animals inside the box best chance for success. So that's what we really do. We serve as this go-between between FedEx and our customers. We provide all the information and know-how. We also provide a discount because we're able to pool up all these people who use our service. We pull up all that volume we get a discount from FedEx, and then therefore we provide a discount to all of our customers along the way. So we save you money. We give you the best packaging you could possibly have. We give you the expertise, know-how, information, and if something goes wrong along the way, the box gets missorted, there's a delay, maybe you put the wrong address on there, you were shipping to an apartment, you forgot to put the apartment number on there. We handle all those issues for you along the way as well.
That's major. That's major.
I want to be your shipping partner. So if you've got an animal for sale, I want you to focus on making animals and making animals sold. I want you to sell those animals. I want you to leave
everything else.
I want you to leave the shipping and all the headaches and hassle to that in my company, and we'll take care of you.
Everybody in the chat, I need y'all to understand how major this is. This is major. That means all you got to do, make your animal, hit this man up right here, and everything is handled.
We got you. We got you. No doubt about it. We got you. So keep your head down. Focus on your animals. Put all your passion into those. You don't want to be like an amateur shipping clerk. You want to be an animal professional. Do that. Let me handle that headache for you. I got you.
Right. I love it, man. I love it. Now, you being a business owner, I know you're very busy, and I want to talk about herping. I know nothing can compare to going to Indonesia. Nothing can compare to that. But I still got to ask, do you get the chance to go out herping and looking for stuff?
It's been a few years, but I have actually been talking with my son, not this year, but next year. We're going to go down to South Texas, right there near the border, near Big Bend National Park. You can catch Trans-Pecos rats down there. You can catch gray banded king snakes. You can catch emery rats. You can catch banded geckos. It's an awesome trip. There's atrox, there's rattlesnakes out there. It's an amazing trip. That's not too far. It's local, and it's a super cool thing because you fly into San Antonio. You do the 6-hour drive to Big Bend National Park. You get yourself a nice Cadillac so you can be comfortable when you're doing your road cruising at night. Get some snacks. Get a cooler in the back of the car. You're just hanging out, having a good time. Now my son is 22. So it'll be, a little bit more of maybe some adult beverages in that cooler in the back seat, but it'll be a fantastic time.
Right.
I've been lucky enough. I've been herping in California, a number of different spots. I've been to, Big Bend down in Texas. I've been here in Colorado. I've been in Costa Rica and Thailand and Indonesia and all these various places. I love going out and looking for reptiles because that's a day well spent. Even if you don't see a single animal, you were outside, you were talking about some reptiles, you probably talked about some cool reptile topics on the drive. You got outside, you saw the sun, go down, you flipped over some boards, maybe you saw some cool stuff along the way. It's always a good time.
Right. I love it, man. I love it, man. Now, I'm glad you cleared that up because I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really know much about the shipping, side of the business. I'm glad you cleared that up because after this podcast, I was team all pro shipping. I was gonna write a diss song and be like, "Fuck FedEx." But now that you work with them, now that I know you work with them, I'm not doing that no more because I thought it was us against them. I was gonna say I'm with Chad. I'm not fooling with FedEx.
Now, FedEx, to their credit, they are one of the largest animal shippers on the planet. If you see animals being moved for zoos, it's typically through FedEx. FedEx actually even has a live animal desk where it is manned by a couple of folks, and the director at the live animal desk is fortunately a very good friend of ours at this point. FedEx is the #1 horse shipper on the planet. They fly more horses around than anyone else. So they are actually a friend to the hobby. I know some folks have a little bit of a contentious relationship. Maybe they had a bad experience or two. I would recommend going through a service like mine who can kind of grease those sleds when something happens in the FedEx system. But FedEx has been a really great partner for us. And I want to give them a shout out as we continue to expand our model. They were welcome to us doing aquatics. They were welcome to us doing invertebrates, which is kind of an offshoot of the reptile hobby. So let's give FedEx a little bit of a grace pass Let's
I
not
love
say
it.
F them just yet.
I love it. I love it. I love it, man. Now, I got one more question about the shipping company, and then we'll move on. I feel like that you have had, so much success with everything that you put your hand in. So my question to you is, ultimately, where do you want your shipping company to be? And do you ever see yourself, once you have mastered the ins and out of your shipping company, do you ever see yourself like franchising your business model out to other people?
I don't think it's quite a franchisable model. It takes a very dedicated, passionate staff to be able to learn the ins and outs of each hobby. The demands for shipping are different between reptiles and aquatics. Once you seal up that bag, there's only so much oxygen in that bag for that fish. So, reptiles certainly, all those animals need to travel priority overnight, but there's a little bit more expediency with some of the aquatic stuff, particularly fish. So there's a nuanced learning there that only comes with having a passion for the hobby, having some experience in the hobby, and really being able to teach your staff all those kinds of things. So I want to continue to expand the number of ship yours that I have. Like I said, I've got plants, ship your flora coming up here. And that's kind of similar to reptiles in a way, because with the reptile hobby, frogs have different shipping requirements than ball pythons. And ball pythons, have a different shipping requirement than leopard geckos. So if I'm shipping a cactus, that's different than shipping orchids. And that's different than shipping a houseplant. So I've got to do a deep dive in all kinds of research. And part of that room at my office where I keep my animals now is also going to now house plants. I need to learn the ins and outs of various plant types and how they function to be able to provide really solid advice on teaching folks the best ways to ship all these various things. So eventually, that office in my building will have fish, reptiles, plants, whatever we're getting into from a ship your perspective. I wanted my staff to be able to see it, touch it, feel it, learn about it, know about it, so we can not just sell shipping, but the absolute best advice we can when people ship through us.
I love it, man. This is definitely one of my favorite podcasts, man. I love it, man. Now, I got to give you a hot seat question. As you know, I've told you that your life is insane, from NFL players to meeting this celebrity to starting this business, doing that. Your life is insane. So let's say I'm making a movie, the autobiography of Chad Brown. Who am I getting to play you? Any actor in the world. Who's playing you?
Ooh, wow. Okay. I'm going to give you a kind of an obscure choice who you wouldn't think of when you think of actors. But this guy's actually got some acting credits and does a really good job. When I travel around, particularly internationally, I get mistaken for Blake Griffin all the time. Now, he's a little bit taller. We both are light-skinned dudes. He's got a little bit of redness in his hair. I don't have the redness. But everywhere I go, I've been in Mexico, I've been other places, and people are like, "Oh my God, Blake Griffin." I'm like, "No, he's like 6'10". I'm 6'3". But whatever the case may be, Blake Griffin would play me because we look so much alike.
I love it, man. I would love to see that movie. The NFL star turned snake whisperer / snake shipper, all that good stuff, man. Blake, I would love to see that, man. I love it, man. Now, like I said, I watched the podcast that you did with In Blue, two amazing ladies. You talked about your wife and that you've been married for like 28 years, I believe. Super, super amazing. So I got two questions dealing with your wife, just to kind of have a little fun. 28 years, that's amazing. So my first question to you is, what's the best reptile gift your wife has ever got you?
Ooh, my wife, her phrase for reptiles is she has an appreciation from afar. So she is not a reptile handler. She sees the beauty that you and I see, but the beauty ends it. She doesn't have the fascination to come forward and touch. The reptile gifts from my wife, I can't even think of one. Wow, no, not a single one in almost 30 years of our relationship. Not
Hold
a
on,
single
hold
reptile
on.
kid.
I got to interrupt you. I got to interrupt
Okay.
you. Now, my wife knows I love reptiles. Now, hold on. Now, y'all have made it 30 years, and you love reptiles. And she ain't got you a snake hook, nothing.
Nothing. Well, because for a while, for at least the beginnings of our marriage, I had a reptile business. So I mean, she didn't need to buy me snake hooks because I sold snake hooks. You know, she couldn't buy me a book because I knew most of the authors. They sent me signed copies. When the books first came out. So there wasn't really a whole lot of space for her. So I'm trying to give her a little bit of credit here because you're bringing up a good point. But
No,
yeah.
no, I'm interrupting. You know what? I love your wife. Y'all got 30 amazing years, but I ain't gonna tell you to get rid of her. But I'm gonna say, look, if she was here, I would scold her. I would have said you should have bought a snake hide and glued some macaroni on it and told me that you made it. I love it, man.
Now,
I'll just give you a hard time.
Now, I will say this. Arizona is where I'm going to end up, eventually once I retire. And I've got some space in my backyard. My home's on, over an acre plus out there. So I'm going to do some tortoise cages in the backyard. And I am certain that she will not only be into the tortoises, she will feed the tortoises, and she will take care of some of those tortoises for me. So maybe ask me this question in about 10 years when I'm retired, and she's actually back there taking care of the tortoises. We may have a different conversation.
All right, I won't scold her then. I won't scold. I won't scold her too much. I just had to give you a hard time because you talked about your wife. Now, the next hot seat question dealing with your wife.
Mm-hmm.
You've been breeding for a little bit. You've dibbled and dabbled with different projects. Now, breeding wise, snake wise, my question to you is: have you ever wanted a snake for a project, and you told your wife, "Hey, baby, I really need this snake. It's $200, but it was really $1,000."
I have underreported reptile values a few times. Yes, a few times. Because, someone who doesn't share our passion, one snake is as good as the next. And, to walk around at the show and see this snake is $10,000, this snake is $1,000, and this snake is $100, they all look the same to her. So, I've had to underreport some purchase values. I got into ball pythons, when ball pythons were still multiple tens of thousands of dollars. So, there has been some really large checks that have gone out that, I didn't tell all the full details on. Sometimes the value report may have been missing a couple of zeros. Let's put it that way.
I love it, man. I had to get you in a little trouble, man, just to give you a little hard time, man.
Yeah, yeah.
This has been an amazing podcast. Just learning about your life, from NFL to entrepreneur, man. Just the stuff that you have accomplished is amazing, man. And I just want to say thank you for coming here and talking with us, man.
I'm always stoked to talk reptiles. It's a passion for me, and then obviously I got all these business interests that are related to the reptile world. But they all start from this very basic origin of it was this kid who thought snakes and lizards in his backyard were super cool, and now I get to go to shows. I get to help other people ship their animals all around and share their passion. And once I stopped being a reptile breeder, when I had the fire at Pro Exotics Reptiles and lost that business, that opened up a whole new world for me because, as an NFL player, as an athlete, I can't help but always be competitive. So to go visit, Kevin and see the stuff that he was doing, well, I was jealous and I was competitive, and I would be like, "Oh man, you bred that before me. I was hoping to do this and I was hoping to do that, and oh, you got 3 clutches. I only got 2 clutches." And so it became a little bit of this weird competitive thing where I couldn't appreciate other people's joy, other people's passion, other people's success. So now that I'm no longer a captive breeder and I'm just really providing services within the reptile space, I can appreciate everybody's success, and I can go to the shows and be wowed by stuff on Justin's table or whoever's table it may be. I can go and enjoy all of that. So my interest is kind of gone full circle from a passion and an interest to wanting to go see everyone's collections to now I got a collection of my own. Now I got a business. Now I got to compete with these guys. Well, now I'm back on the other end of it where the passion and the interest is super pure. It's not motivated by money or how many clutches I can have or who can be first. It's just motivated by these animals are cool. And we've got this awesome community with people like yourself and all these other people who make up this community that is really this kind of brothers in arms kind of thing. All these little reptile weirdos who have managed to come together and form an entire industry, which is what we are at this point. And I'm super happy to be a small piece of it. And I'm happy to come on with people like yourself and talk about it.
Right. I got a couple more questions before you go, but you gave us an amazing hour. I want you to give us some advice on like the business side, not necessarily give away your secrets, but give some advice, not necessarily for like a shipping company, but for people that wanting to start like a business. What's the best advice you can give them, to follow in your footsteps to start a business and be successful?
Okay, well, first of all, you got to take your own temperature as an entrepreneur. Some people aren't just entrepreneurs from a mindset standpoint. Because to be an entrepreneur, you got to be willing to work 60 or 80 hours a week so you don't work 40 hours for someone else. Because you're never off the clock. You're always working. I'm answering questions and phone calls on the weekends and all that. So are you willing to do that? Or do you like to be a person who, when you leave the office and shut the door, that's it. You're done until tomorrow. If you're that kind of person, there's no shame in that whatsoever. But maybe being an entrepreneur is not necessarily cut out for you. But if you've taken your temperature and you think you're an entrepreneurial kind of person, I think you need some patience, because things aren't going to always be easy and you're going to have to learn a lot of lessons along the way. But I think the key thing you need to realize is how am I going to make myself different than my competitors? And how am I going to make my customers stick to me? I, in the end, recognize that shipping reptiles, while it's kind of a logistics business where we're doing shipping, in the end, I'm really a business partner or a customer service business. I am trying to handle a part of your business for you to take that headache away from you. Therefore, I need to service you as a customer at as high a level as I possibly can, so you don't ever have any desire to go anyplace else. So it is often that I cost myself dollars and I am willing to give somebody a refund or give somebody an insurance claim who may not deserve it because I want to retain them as a customer and I want to do the right thing for them as a customer. And I think if I'm chasing every penny along the way, it's going to come down to whose interest is more at heart here, mine or my customers. And if I'm always siding with me, then I'm not really truly serving my customer. So I've got to find a way to service my customer. And occasionally along the way, that's going to cost me some money. I'm going to have to reach into my pocket and give some of that money back to that customer who may not necessarily deserve it by a strict reading of the rules. But I've got an interest in maintaining a happiness for all my customer base. So if you've got that kind of mindset, and not only that kind of mindset, but you can sustain that for years and years and years, you might just be cut out for this.
I love it, man. Y'all hear this information? This is gold right here, okay? Because this man has been successful in almost everything that he's done. Now, 2 more questions, and then, like I said, I'm going to let you go. You gave us an amazing hour. Hopefully, down the road, I can get you on here for a round 2. You're in the reptile hobby. You have your own reptile business with your shipping company. Has the Lacey Act, it hasn't been passed yet, but we're fighting that with USARC. Much love to USARC. Go support USARC. Does that kind of keep you up at night that reptiles may go away and you might not be able to keep your business?
Reptiles are never going to go away. I mean, obviously things are going to change. There's a continued fight with laws and regulations and ordinances and, nationally and state by state and community by community in some states that we're always going to have to fight. Our opponents, the quote unquote animal rights folks, don't want to see anyone have pets whatsoever. And they come after us because we're not as well funded as dogs or cat people. But their attempts to stop us from doing what they're doing, unfortunately, are never going to go away. So that fight that we have, whenever we win one battle, we need to really arm up and prepare ourselves for the next one. Because these folks, PETA and all these other people, they're never, unfortunately, going to stop. Because it's not a battle for them. It's an ideological fight for them, where they have to, take away animals from everyone being a pet. All animals in their mind deserve to be out free. I think our reptile community overall has done an amazing job of raising our standards and raising the levels of care. And I was talking about Barcheck and Nerd, and they're trying to do enrichments, and everyone's doing bigger cages, and we're doing a lot of stuff as a hobby overall to make ourselves be perceived better by the general public. But we also have to recognize that there's a section of the public that we're never going to win over, that is always going to be a fight for them. So we have to fund organizations like USARK. We have to take part in those fundraisers after trade shows, all the auctions, all the things like that. At Ship Your Reptiles, we have a function on our site. Every time you purchase a shipping label on our site, you can do a donation to USARK. It's already built into the checkout process. At the end of every year, I match all those donations from the company pocket that our customers have given to USARK. I match all those donations. So it's an important fight. It's an important organization that we need to continue to fund. But to answer your question, I don't have many sleepless nights, but I do recognize that the restrictions that come down from time to time, they're always going to change the hobby. Giant snakes are less of a part of the hobby than they were 10 or 15 years ago. Florida's iguana situation, even with all the morphs and the color phases, that cool stuff that people are doing, iguanas are going to be a less and less part of the hobby going forward. But there's all kind of other cool animals for us to enjoy. Doesn't mean we ever give up the fight. Doesn't mean we ever concede anything. But it just means the attention shifts from, frankly, to be perfectly honest, most reptile keepers weren't really good candidates for keeping giant snakes anyway. Most iguanas are bigger than what the average reptile keeper can responsibly care for anyway. So as the hobby shifts and evolves, sometimes it's for the worse, and sometimes it's for the better. But yeah, never give up the fight. Never give up the fight.
Right. I'm just happy that it hasn't affected your business, man. So I'm just so ecstatic about that, man. Like I said, your life is insane. Now we got 2 hot seat questions before we get out of here, man. Hot seat question. I love them both. I talk to them all the time. Great guys. They've been on the podcast. Love them both. This ain't no shade. Who's the king right now? Barcheck or Brewer?
Ooh, man. General public, I would say Brewer, because he's, a little bit more sensational with the content he's putting out right now.
Yeah.
And I think there's a space for, Jay and his video style in the hobby. Brian's definitely gone a different direction. And Brian, went a little sensationalistic with some of the bite stuff years and years ago and all that. But and he's, moved to a different space, and he's evolved as a reptile person, as a reptile keeper. His animals and how he keeps them has evolved, and therefore his channel reflects that. And Jay has, caught a little bit of lightning in the bottle with, the retics and, all the pulling the egg videos, which is really fascinating, compelling video content. Do I think it necessarily represents the hobby the best? No, I don't. But, I'm friends with Jay. I'm not mad at Jay at all. So from a public reception, if you're going to look at the stats or views for Jay's videos versus Brian's videos are going to be more true reptile folks involved, and Jay's videos are going to be more general public looking for something ooh and ah to watch.
Okay, I love it. Great answer. I love it. You tread that line. You told it how you feel. Great answer. Now, again, like I said, man, your life is insane. I appreciate you giving me an hour of your time. Before we get out of here, I want to, like I said, I have Barcheck on. He'll tell you the thumbnail is everything. You know, if you don't, you can have the best message, the best everything, but if your thumbnail is terrible, nobody's gonna watch it. So before we get out of here, we're gonna make a funny face for my thumbnail. For my thumbnail, just to have a little fun. Hope you're down. On the count of three, we're gonna make a funny face for the thumbnail, and I'm gonna post it on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. There it is. All right, man. Hey, I appreciate it. If there's anything you want to say, cool.
This was awesome, man. I had a lot of fun. I think you got a great style for these. The hot seat questions. They are hot seat questions. You're forced to think about them, and you set them up in a good way, make you choose in between. This was a lot of fun, man. I look forward, as you said, to round 2, because I got lots more reptile stories to share.
I love it, man. Round 2 definitely coming in the future. Thank you so much, Mr. Brown. Susie, I know you're in the chat. Thank you so much for helping me set it up. Again, man, amazing company. Y'all go check them out on Instagram. Thank you so much, Mr. Brown. You have a good day, sir.
All right, peace, my friend.
Boom! This is Big Reptile Talk, man. As always, thank you for everybody in the chat. If you're still here, make sure you go check out my brother, My Animal House. He's doing his podcast right now. Before we get out of here, man, love to finally hear about the shipping side of this industry. I know. That's why I hit him up. I was like, this is a shipping company I need on here. So definitely glad. Another good one. Thank you, Gary. Definitely wanted to get him on here and just talk about shipping, talk about what he does, and just his life in general. Just a down-to-earth guy, man. This is Big Reptile Talk. Until next time, man, I love all y'all. Thank y'all for showing up. Of course, before we get out of here, much love to the sponsors. Ozzy Boyd's, man. Doesn't need an introduction. If you're in the ball pythons, you know who Ozzy is. Make sure you hit him up. Check out his snakes. Just an amazing guy. Produces some serious heat. If you love ball pythons, hit him up. Tell him Derek's Reptile sent you. And, of course, venom-proof cages. If you keep snakes, keep them in style. And if you keep venomous, this is the way to go. Make sure you check out their website. Go give them a follow, man. This is Big Reptile Talk. And, man, definitely a good show, man. I'm excited. We out of here. You don't start things and not finish them. You don't quit. There's nothing that comes out of quitting besides knowing that you didn't finish. We finish everything. You start it, finish it. If you're going to do it to try to be the best. Not to be better than other people, but to be the best for you. You grind hard so you can play hard. The work you put in will pay off. It could be a year, it could be 30 years, but you keep grinding. Welcome